Back to business. Today we are talking matters health. Hopefully this is a healthy conversation. And you're talking specifically touching on healthcare workers in studio. I have Dr. Nora Obudo, who is actually a medic, practiced for a while. Dr. Do you still practice or you left?
I left the practice.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Is it because of these challenges that you're facing?
Certainly. And a lot of doctors also have pivoted or diverted variously. And you'll often hear the story that, I lost a patient and there's nothing I could do because there were no gloves, there was no gauze, or the trolley to move them from one ward to the other was not there, and you lose a patient. And sometimes that is very, it holds you down, and you don't want to be part of that system. And so there are those who leave the system, there are those who are still also strong enough to keep up. And so I also applaud those who stay within the system, also hoping and looking for this change. But when you see how things are happening right now, it begs the question: should you stay? Should you move out? Was it the right decision? But it's a calling. We keep saying that medicine is a calling, but also in that call, you also have to live as a human being.
Okay.
Definitely. You must. Yes.
That's very important. We were talking about this issue of gender parity in the health sector, which is very critical. Looking at the current population, I think even if we are to effectively bring change in the health sector, the solution bearers have to be reflective to the market, to rightly put it. As it stands right now, because there are different levels. We're talking about leadership. That is one level that we're talking about gender parity. There's also now the sector players, sector workers, these health workers. Again, that's another layer. Talk to me about the gender balance in these different levels of the health sector.
Yeah, we have to look at gender is both men, women, and of course the non-binaries that are within that category. So we have leadership at various levels, and leadership is not necessarily that you're at policy, at ministry. There's leadership even in a health facility. There's leadership at a community level. And so those are the levels that we are looking at. Now, when we look at the global statistics, of course we say that 70% of the health workforce are women, but you'll only find 25% getting into leadership. When you come to lower middle income countries and the low middle income and low income countries, then it falls down to a 5%, a paltry 5% being in leadership. And now, why is it important that we have diversity? And when we're talking about diversity, it's also gender, it's also tribal balance across leadership. It's because of the value addition of different perspectives that will move a situation or issue from point A to Z with change and positive change that we're looking at. And so what we're saying is that we need to ensure that our leadership spaces, wherever they are, that women are represented, men are represented as well. Because we often call to the value of women's leadership. It is collaborative, it is inclusive, it's always looking out for the public good.
Okay.
Yeah.
But why that disparity if 70% only in developing worlds, only 5% are able to rise to leadership levels?
Now, women are facing a lot of challenges, and we call it the leaky pipeline, so to speak. And it will be issues around them not getting that space in leadership. So number one, there's a reproductive cycle that a woman goes through. So whether it will be her menses, whether it will be pregnancy, it will be lactation, or the menopausal period, these are areas where the women will fall off because the work policies are not encouraging of the same. So for instance, if you go for an interview and you're pregnant, chances of being hired are lower because the assumption is that you'll be taking maternity leave and it will be at a cost to an organization. But we should be having those policies because we need to have women in that space. Why can't women have, their 6 months maternity leave, for instance, better yet, extend it to the 12 months? Why can't we have lactation rooms, breastfeeding rooms, so that as I'm working and I have a toddler, because this is in my fullness as a woman, that I can still deliver, that I can have a breastfeeding room, that I can, express milk, store milk, and still continue to support my family. Because we cannot look at women as able to extract themselves from home as men usually can, because the woman would naturally hold fort at home, and the man would go to work and come back. And essentially, we've looked at workspaces have been created for men. We need to create the same space for women in the workplace. And then you will definitely have women participating in the workplace. So over and above those policies, we're also looking at the pay. The pay needs to be equal. We need to be having pay equity assessments to ensure that if I'm doing the same job as a gentleman is, I should be paid the same amount. It should not be any different.
Yes.
If I'm looking for a promotion, I should have an equal opportunity to ascend in that promotion. So it should not be that it's one-sided only. Even in terms of development, career development and personal development opportunities within an organization, that should be possible. And so we've looked at leadership programs at an individual level, but we're also looking at institutions to support enabling environments for women to thrive within the organization. Even in terms of hiring, when we say that there's a job available and it's 90% travel, naturally, you've locked out the woman in that space. So, but if there's that 90% travel, what are the conditions or policy support that you're providing to enable a woman to also engage and apply for that job as well? So these are the things that we're looking at across board, and also having that conversation within the community, society. Why can't I be a mother or a sister or an auntie and still be able to work? Why can't I have both roles, take care of a home and still be optimal at the workplace?
Exactly. So creating an enabling working environment is critical. It seems, especially taking it from a business angle, it is balancing the costs, because you've talked about the cost implication. If I want to hire a woman, then I have to factor in some of these changes. Maybe if she's had a child, she needs to take a break, the cost implications. So in terms of formulating policy, that is able to factor all that in. I mean, first of all, where are we on that journey as a country? And these, of course, just sort of juxtaposing with the challenge that we've had with the 2/3 gender rule, even from that level, that we haven't made much progress.
No, we could say that there are organizations, and I'll call again to AMREF, that provides the maternity leave that is adequate for exclusive breastfeeding for a mother. A lot of organizations have also provided a breastfeeding room, but is it in law? Because then if it's in law, then we can provide it across sectors, both private, both public, and even in the informal setups. We also have this Maziwa clinics that are being designed for informal workers, and even these creches that are designed so that those in the informal sector can still go and work and have their children somewhere taken care of and come back and continue on and still contribute to our economy. So we've made steps. You can see some case examples, but unless it's put in law, then we can say that for sure, then it will be sustainable, widespread, and for greater impact. And so that is what I would do, in terms of ensuring that women are sitting on the table. I mean, we had some discussions around the menstrual hygiene, and you'd find that the people sitting within the technical working group around that were all men. So if you want to look at the menstruation and the experience of menstruating and why pads are an issue and there's no woman's voice in that space, how do we make decisions that are, more inclusive, collaborative, and also balanced? So those are the things that we are calling to.
All right.
Yeah, there's work being done. There's some good case examples across.
Yeah. That's incredible. In terms of putting, because you've said you have to have actually put pen to paper, concretize it.
Yes.
So that it's easier to implement.
Yes.
And in regards to that journey, is there a health policy in that regard? Are we making any strides, especially as a sector player who's very passionate about this particular issue? Are you being involved? Are you seeing that hunger also from both parties, the nation at large, the government, and also sector players?
Yeah, I'm seeing there's a lot of drive around women's leadership. And I know you called onto the quota system, a very important system that we want, of course, women in these positions. But as I said, it is not who leads by how they lead. They do. How are you leading? Are you transformative in your leadership? Are you inclusive? Are you collaborative? Are you leading for impact? Are you leading for change? Because it's not just we just sit in a position, we've ticked the box, and that's it. It's how you're also leading. And so it's great. The quota system has helped, but we also want to look at how we are leading. And across board, both men and women, how are we leading? Yeah, how are we causing change in terms of even the policies that we need to be driving and advocating for?
Okay.
Yeah, but in the setup where we have this polycrisis, where is the space to think?
Becomes difficult.
Yeah, it becomes difficult. You have to deal with this hunger in Marsabit, this flooding that's all over, this health worker crisis. When do you really sit down for effective leadership and to lead for impact?
Definitely.
Yeah, and that is what we need in Kenya at this point.
Leadership.
Yeah, leadership.
I'm looking at this and the economic implications, because sometimes we count our chicks before they hatch. So we look at the initial cost other than the overall impact, if at all we are to effect a particular change. So where we stand right now, is there an economic case, overly, other than all that we've mentioned, in terms of achieving and ensuring gender parity in the health sector? Is there an economic case also backing it up?
Absolutely, absolutely. Because when we have, what I'm looking at here now is around sound decision making and looking at the public good, looking out for the public good. Because if we ensure that health services are reaching Kenyans, surely a healthy nation is a working nation.
Yes.
Obviously, they will be able to work. They'll be able to, contribute to the economy, whether it's building it in terms of the businesses being able to thrive. That will happen. But it is the lack of long-term thinking and the lack of inclusion in terms of our leadership that is completely blinding us in this process. So there's everything. As I tell you, health intersects. It will intersect with agriculture, the climate change crisis that we're looking at. It will look at education. It intersects across board. So there's every value in focusing on leadership and ensuring that women are also part of that decision-making table, because the leadership style is different. When you lead different, your financials will be different. The structures that you put or the policies that you put forward will not be looking at one person, but a whole community and a whole nation. So this is what I'm talking about. In terms of the return on investment, it's high. It's high. And even in terms of the studies that have been done, whether it's PwC and all, they've looked at the ROI in terms of having women in leadership, the profits double up.
Yes.
Yeah. So for me, when I look at it in the health sector, let's have more women bringing in the diverse leadership, because competence is not an issue. Competence, that we are scoring on that. But it's how we lead that really matters, and having that opportunity to be at the table.
Definitely. Targets are normally important. It becomes very critical for us to have a way of holding ourselves accountable.
Absolutely.
Because you can have a conversation. Like sometimes I feel with the alcohol situation, it's almost after every 3 or 5 years, again, we have this big conversation around alcohol. Then it will go down, like now it's going down. Of course, we have other issues. Then it will come back again. And there seems to be no clear targets in that regard, so that by that time we can hold ourselves accountable. Like Vision 2030 is supposed to have achieved this, that. When 2030 comes, we'll sit down and say, anyway, have we tried achieving this? Now, in regards to health sector and investment in the health sector, gender parity in the health sector, are there any targets that, as sector players, we can hold each other accountable in that regard?
No, I think it will also just be a measure of our health indicators as we move forward. As we add more women onto the table, can we now look at how the measurements in terms of our health indicators, whether it's maternal health, immunization rates, whatever it is across board, because we do have our indicators that we measure against. But for us to measure against those indicators, as I will emphasize, the health worker needs to be thriving, needs to be working in a safe space, needs to be having resources to deliver a service. Their mental health needs to be taken care of. They need to be paid as they should be, because that will then translate into service delivery. As we've said, this is not, it's not one pillar. There are about 7 pillars in this health system that need to be addressed. And as I said, I continue to champion on leadership. That leadership pillar is critical for everything else to be able to work and lead to impact in the health sector.
Dr. Tari, thank you very much for taking time to speak to business today. it's always, I think, an ongoing conversation that we can always assess ourselves where we are, the progress that we're making. But today, I think we've laid a strong case in regards to ensuring there is gender parity in the health sector. At the same time, just intentional leadership, which we can see the trickle down effect. Yes, definitely. But thank you very much for making time to speak to us. Dr. Nora Obudo has been speaking to us, and she says that now is the time. I mean, it's the year 2024. And what have we been doing all this while? Why are there not critical, how can I say, stakeholders when it comes to decision making on matters health in this country? It's high time we change that, and we'll see the trickle down effect in regards to how we even do our health and what we focus on, because in terms of decision making, it is well balanced. And this is not, from ministerial perspective, even at the clinic level, are we able to implement these changes? That's been our conversation today. And thank you very much for joining with us over the past 1 hour right here on Business Today. Up next to have you, KTN. Stay tuned.